Hey guys, welcome to the first episode of Be Yourself, the podcast. This one's a little bit different because I've been interviewed for this one by Duncan Price of Mind Affinity. You'll get to learn a little bit more about me and my story before I start interviewing my guests. So I hope you enjoy it and you'll get to learn a little bit more about me. Thank you.
Rhys, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. It's good to be on.
It's great to have you here. So, who are you? Who is Rhys Smith?
I ask myself that every single day when I look in the mirror. So I am 24 years old. I have got a bit of a geek when it comes to social media and marketing. So I spend a lot of my time on social media, whether that's looking after clients' work, just learn a bit more about it, but having fun. And yeah, I now run my own agency after being freelance for a long time. And then working at somewhere and it not quite working out, to then just making the jump on I worked out the date the other day, it was the 26th of March I made the jump this year, and as many people know, we went on lockdown on the 23rd of March. So I am one of them crazy people who got to the start of lockdown and thought, you know what, this is the time to go alone and set up a business with no money.
Excellent. And how's that all going so far?
All really well so far. Yeah, it's been a crazy journey. It's been fun, but I've used the experience I've already had and also used the experience of other people to sort of help me out a little bit and just grow the agency. So I've gone from sort of being myself right at the start of lockdown to employing somebody at the start of August to now from next month, hopefully having a team of up to 10 people, which is absolutely crazy in my world.
Quite rapid expansion, isn't it?
Very much so.
So you mentioned the fact that you're 24.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously that is still quite young to be throwing yourself into running an agency with 10 people on your team. And there's it's never too early. And you run a podcast as well that focuses on helping younger people find direction, drive, motivation. What's the focus?
A bit of both and all that. So a little bit of a backstory to me is that at school, I never really knew what I wanted to do. I did GCSE, photography, catering, geography, extra science, and a couple of random topics. And even during school, I never knew what I wanted to do. I'm dyslexic, and yeah, that always sort of held me back at school. And I never got the direction of what I wanted to do. So I left school, I went to college, and I did catering because I had I enjoyed cooking and it was fun, and it was also an easy route for me at the time. I did a whole year of cooking. I ended up becoming Student of the Year, which is one of my only award at the moment. And after that, I was sat there and I had a job, but I didn't know what to do. So I went to college and did business studies. And that's where I really fell in love with sort of social media and marketing and branding and just how it works. And at that point, I had a job, which unfortunately I ended up having a mental breakdown from because I was being sort of physically and mentally sort of bullied as such. So at that point, at 19, I had a mental breakdown, which when I tell now people you couldn't have had a mental breakdown at 19. It's not possible to be that stressed or depressed at 19 when in actual fact it's easy enough to be. So I had 6 or 7 months off sick where I was on a daily basis wouldn't get out of bed, or I'd get out of bed and move to the sofa and play Xbox. And I kept going by and just I wouldn't leave the house or anything like that. And then this is still 19, 20 years old when I had my friends were going out clubbing, going out partying. Lucky enough, I was already in a relationship with a very supportive now fiance. And I was sort of sat there, and one day I ended up watching, and it's a little bit cringy when I say it, but I ended up watching a Gary Vee video, and he was talking about social media and branding and YouTube and all this, and I was like, okay, let's have a look. So sort of had a look at it, and that was where my love for it re-happened again, because I knew I wanted to be on social media and I wanted to help people, but I didn't know how to, and ended up knowing a couple of people who run businesses but weren't on social media. So I just started off by sort of saying, can I have a bit of a play around with your socials? Can I create something for you? Can I just have a bit of a play around? They're like, yeah, of course. And that's where it literally was you know what, I can do this and I can make money from it. So from that point, I moved from East Yorkshire back down to Cornwall, I'm originally from, and ended up setting up freelance. I don't class it as an agency, I don't class it as a business, even though I had a name, because I was always freelance and I never got past that point. And then did that for a couple of years, and then got the amazing opportunity of helping set up an agency, which unfortunately didn't work out. And then I woke up at the beginning of lockdown, like I said, pretty sure it's 28th of March, and it's going to annoy me if it's not. And thought, do you know what? I can't do this. I'm stressed. I'm tired. I can't work for anybody. I certainly cannot work Monday to Friday 9 till 5. And I want to grow as big as I can. I want to help as many people in this world as possible, whether that's social media marketing or just helping them set up a brand or motivating somebody. So yeah, at the age of 20, I was actually 23 at the time, start of lockdown, I went, you know what, I can do this and set up an agency. I knew enough people already that I had clients. So it wasn't actually this massive risk, but I did have no money at the time. So I was going to these businesses at the start of lockdown saying, I'm back in the game as such. I can help you do social media. Do you want that help? And it just sort of went from there. In my business plan, I had that in 12 months in March that I would be making a couple of £1,000. It would just be me. I'd have a handful of clients, and then I would introduce training and courses. But quickly, by like June, July time, I had people coming to me going, oh, I see you back doing, can I have some training? And then it went from there. And then suddenly I was like, do you know what? I'm too busy to manage people's businesses, but I enjoy doing that and let me do the training. So that's when I then got Sophie on board, who works for me. She takes care of all the management clients and she does an amazing job, while I get to have time to do training and do podcasts and set up other businesses, which I've currently going for at the same time. So yeah.
There we go. There's a life history of Rhys Smith. So you say you had a mental breakdown at 19, and that must have probably been compounded by the fact that people didn't take that very seriously.
Yeah.
What helped you most to get out of that? How did you turn that around?
I struggle to find the answer today, because I still look back now and I still have days, don't get me wrong, where I can't get out of bed. I still have days where I get half through the day and think, you know what, I don't want to do, not do this anymore because I love doing it, but I just want to go back to bed and I just want to hibernate and I just want to hide away. And that's still inside me now. And I still do it now, where like people want to do stuff and I'm like, I just don't want it. That's why lockdown to me was a little bit of a blessing, because I didn't have to say no to people. Boris Johnson said no for me,
yeah.
Which ends up being a bit of a pro. But for me to get out of that, I suppose it was the people around me were living their life and enjoying themselves, and I was still sat in my bed and I was still just sat on the sofa doing nothing. And I was like, you know what, I want better for my life, but I also was in a relationship at that point for like nearly 4 years. And I was like, I want better for my partner. And then I was like, actually, further along that, we're going to have kids one day. I want better for them. And that sort of helped me wake up as such, and then sort of go from there. But yeah, I suppose it's the realization of wanting better for me, but also my partner, and then what will be my family.
What was the hardest part of that all for you?
Of the breakdown as such? Yeah. I suppose it was also the disappointment with my partner, because there's a story that I've got, and I think she'll be all right with me sharing it, but she came home from one day from work. She's always worked and has never stopped. And she came home from one day and she was really embarrassed, because she'd been asked what I do as work and she wasn't able to answer it. And it didn't help, because she didn't know whether I was comfortable. She was comfortable with me. I was comfortable with her saying, well, he's had this, he's gone through that. But at the same time, she was a bit like, well, he's not really doing anything at the moment. And for me, that was like, I've let people down now. It's not just affecting me, it's affecting my partner. My mum is worried sick and she's in Cornwall, 300 miles away. She's worried every day for me. My sister's worried about me and my dad's worried about me. And suddenly it was like, I felt like this, and I felt like it was stuck inside me, but then suddenly this was affecting other people. And then obviously, as far as it would go, it might affect my mother-in-law, because she's then worried about obviously Leah, her daughter. and then suddenly like, okay, that's affecting other people. Because I'm not even though I now don't worry about what other people say, but back then, knowing that other people being affected by me being upset and down made me feel worse than me being depressed, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. So what, and you may not be able to answer this question, but in that situation, it can go either way. So that additional pressure can really make it harder for people.
Yeah.
For you, that additional pressure of other people is what made the difference for you to take that step towards getting better. Why do you think that is? What was it about that pressure that made you go, no, I'm going to change and I'm going to do something about this, rather than hiding away from it and burying yourself deeper?
Well, that's a difficult one, because at the same time, and I think this is probably one of the first times that I've said it in such a public domain, and that is that at the same time, I nearly took my own life multiple times in that course. But I don't know, I can understand the thing that actually, do you know what, my partner's upset with me, or my parents, that could make me feel a lot worse, and I could understand anybody who's going through that. I don't know, something just clicked for me to say, do you know what, I want better for my life, and I want my partner to be happy, and I want my parents to be happy, and right down to like my nieces and nephews, because they mean everything to me. And I don't know, I was lucky that when I went to do something like that, people reached out to me at the right time, and I was very lucky at that time. And I think that was very much like a turning point to me. And I genuinely think I got lucky with that. And then, yeah.
Well done, and thank you for sharing this, because there will be people out there potentially
100%.
listening to this podcast who can be helped by hearing about your story. So thank you. So
100%.
I've got a number of questions that I want to ask related to that. So one is, have you shown your appreciation to those people around you and the support that they gave you?
Yeah, 100%. Some of them don't know about what I've just said. My partner does, and I'm pretty sure some of my family do.
When I share this link.
I'm now happy, because it's a story that I want to start sharing, because now I've overcome it. I'm lucky enough where I do wake up every day with a smile on my face, and I'm happy, and I've got this appreciation for life and the simple things in life that I didn't have. Even though I said that I like to hide away every now and again, but I feel like that's something that everybody should do. I'm openly saying this, regardless of how happy you are, you should always have time to yourself and self-care. But yeah, I'm very open in saying that I've got this appreciation for life that I never had before. And I'm lucky to wake up every day and I've got a smile on my face. And even though people will look at me on social and say that, oh, you're really happy, you look really happy, I don't want my story to be forgotten, because like you said there, it could help somebody else.
And if you could go back now and speak to yourself then, what would you say? What would you need to hear?
That it will be all right. That it will be. There's only one person at that time who could say, do you know what, Rhys, it's going to be all right, it's going to get better. And that would be myself. It didn't matter who said to me, you're going to get better, you're going to feel better, because I had my parents telling me that, I had my partner telling me that, I had random counsellors telling me that. And regardless of what they said, it was, do you know what, I don't know, am I? How do you know? But if I could have seen myself in a year's time, 2, 3, 4, 5 years time, I'd have been like, actually, do you know what, yeah, it's going to be all right. He's going to be sat there and he's going to be happy doing videos and doing this and doing that. But yeah, myself, and it would have just been that everything will be all right one day.
So for someone who finds themselves close to someone who's going through a similar thing, and of course it's different for everyone, what helped you most? What did you find you got the most support from?
What, during it or after it, sorry?
Well, during it and then transitioning out of it. So in other words, what I'm asking, I guess, is if I knew you back then,
yeah,
and I wanted to give you the best support that I could, obviously, as you said, you can only do it for yourself. But what's the best thing that I can do as someone outside of that situation to support you? What would you want to here, or how could I help you best, both in the situation and as you're working your way out of it?
I suppose during, it's checking checking that somebody is okay, because I'm a big believer, and it was obviously World Mental Health the other day. World Mental Health Day the other day. Yeah, I said that right.
The other week, by the time this goes out.
By the time this goes out. And I was a big believer in that, and there was something going on social media that everybody who's listening and watching this video, it was on TikTok, should text a friend and ask if they're okay. And even though I used to get texts from people saying, "Are you okay?" Often I'm like, "Yeah, I'm all right, thanks," even though I'm not. But having that person reach out and know, and sometimes I'm like, you know what, no one's here for me. Other times I'm like, okay, my sister's just texted me and asked if I'm okay and if I want to do this. And even if I said no, it still meant a lot to me that people were reaching out and asked if I was doing this. And on the flip side, if you're asking somebody, this is advice to everyone, if you're asking somebody to do something and you're reaching out and you're just checking, are you okay? Do you want to do this? And they keep saying no, make sure at the same time they still feel supported that way, because I know a lot of the time, and you see it on Twitter or on TikTok, wherever, oh, this person such blah, 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 because they never respond and they always say no. But at the same time, there's clearly a reason why they keep saying no. So on the flip side, check to make sure people are okay. But if they're saying, yeah, I'm okay, or if you're like, oh, just should come out for a walk or come and do this, and they still saying no, don't dig deeper, but don't also then on the flip side, well, you don't ever want to do anything. Maybe reverse it and say, do you want to have a chill day at your house? Or do you want to have a Zoom call? Or do you want to play a game on our phones or something like that? It's about finding the right thing. And for me, I didn't know what the right thing was, but every now and again, like I had one friend who kept asking me to play on Xbox. And for me, that was a big thing. We never spoke on the mics, but knowing that I was playing with somebody was like, oh yeah, fair enough. That's quite fun. Actually, that's okay. But yeah, that's the advice I'd give, is just reach out and just ask how people are. 100%.
That's great advice. So what were the early steps then? So you got to a point where something switched, and you can't put your finger on exactly what happened, but you went, no, for the people around me as much as for myself, I need to do something about this. I need to move forward. I deserve better. I want better for me and for those around me. Then what? What were your first steps? How did you make that actually happen?
I suppose my first thing was getting into a routine of like just small commitments for me. Mine was like going shopping once a week, going out for a drink once a week, making sure that I was always up before 10 o'clock, making sure that I've always cooked 4 meals a week. And it built up from that. Don't get me wrong, there were some days I didn't do it, there were some weeks I didn't do it, but there was always them small commitments. But having multiple little commitments for me was bigger than having one massive commitment, because if you fail at that big commitment, you're going to feel like rubbish. Whereas if you've got 10 small commitments, I don't know, make lunch, get up before 10 o'clock, go for a walk, do this, do that, and you do 7 out of 10 or even 6 or 5 out of 10, you're still going to feel good. And that's the thing to think on, is that you've achieved something today. And that's why I always go to one of my things in life is I make my bed every single morning, because I've achieved something. And it's one of them ones, it's a Marine who says it, and it's been blown all up on social media. It's one of his biggest things now, but that's one of the things that I do every day, because if I come back into my bedroom or walk past my bedroom, I can look at my bed and go, do you know what? I've done something today. And then my next thing is I've made breakfast and I've eaten today. Great. And then that's how it built up for me, was having loads of little commitments and just making them bigger and just trying to get into commitment. And then eventually it got to a point where I was like, these now aren't commitments, because they are just my day-to-day life. Like having breakfast back then wasn't even a thing. Now I have breakfast every day and I feel good for it. And it's the same as I had takeaways probably like 4 or 5 nights out of 7. Now I cook most of my meals. But yeah, it was having them small commitments, definitely.
Yeah, so something that I do with some clients that's worked quite well is very much along those lines. But for some people, the demand of having a to-do list that they have to do every day can be really challenging. So the way that I suggest, and depending on the client, of course, because everyone's different, but the way that works for a lot of people is to have that list of about 10 to 12 things each day, which includes some stuff that you will do every day without even thinking about it, like getting out of bed, for, depending on where you're at and what's difficult for you personally. Brushing your teeth. Some people, no matter how they're feeling, will still make sure that they brush their teeth. So it's an easy win. So having some really achievable things on there, but then also those things that you wouldn't do every day anyway necessarily, but that stretch you that little bit more. So like have a shower. Achieving that 3 times a week when you're in the depths of depression, that's an achievement. That's something to be proud of. Going for a walk. It might not be something that you do very easily, but if you can do that once a week, you'd be happy with it. So include things like that on the list that aren't daily tasks as well, because then it's not about, I must complete all of this every day, additional pressure. It's how many of these can I complete today? And what you do then is you look at the end of the week and you look back over what you've done each in total over the week, or an average each day if you like maths. Not that it's exactly complicated maths. And you can then take either a weekly total or a weekly average, and you can compare week by week so you can see a gradual improvement. So it's not about, today I've only ticked 3 things, that means I've failed. Well, no, today I've only ticked 3 things. That's okay. I decided to stay in bed longer today. I decided to not shower, not leave the house, and not do those other things on my list. I'm guessing by taking that time today, tomorrow's going to be a better day and I might achieve more of them. Or I overdid it yesterday. I ticked all of my 12 things off, but I'm suffering for it today. So sod it. I'm going to allow myself to stay in bed a bit longer. And it allows you to create a bit of balance rather than that pressure that comes with having a to-do list that's, non-negotiable.
Definitely. I agree with that.
Awesome. So aside from that situation, what is the biggest thing that you've overcome, your greatest achievement?
It's a difficult one. I have a few things that I'm very proud of and happy about.
Go for it. Listen, tell me about what you're proud of.
All my achievements are at very different points in life, and there were things that I didn't think I'd get through. Like leaving school was one thing that I was bullied horrendously. Getting past that was an achievement for me. Being a student of the year in my first year of college was a very big thing as well, only because I was a very shy kid. I'd moved from Cornwall to East Yorkshire to live. Originally wasn't, but I lived by myself at 16 and did a year of college at the age of 16. And then to get student of the year was just crazy. And then overcoming the things that I've come. And I suppose now my biggest achievement right now that I'm living is the fact that I'm happy. I've got a family, I've got a house, I've got a beautiful, amazing fiance, and I've now got a dog. And my expectations of my life were so low that mine just keeps getting better. And that's why my goals for further in life aren't ever massive, because I was here and now I'm here. That as long as I don't get back to here, as long as I don't get back down here, I'm living the best life as such, as I like to quote. But yeah, I suppose they're all little achievements, but I suppose my biggest one is currently the achievement that I'm living, and that's having a family, having a house, and having a partner.
That's beautiful. And it's so easy to take that stuff for granted. So it's great that you recognize that and see that as your greatest achievement. You said that, so long as you're doing better than you were before, you're on the right track, you're in a good place. But I know that you've also got some big visions for the future.
Yeah, I struggle with setting big goals for the future, only because my head gets very carried away. I'll see a goal for in 10 years time and I want it now, which is always a bit of a struggle. One of my goals is happiness, and always to be happy. I've got other goals of that I want to have an agency that's global. I want to work with the biggest brands in the world. That's quite a big thing for me, and just having an agency that works and makes money and that I don't have to be in every day, and just being able to travel the world is my like bigger visions. But yeah, I do I do struggle with having big visions, only because my head gets too carried away, that sometimes I'm like I want a big house and I want that, yeah, but I want it now. And that's like a big thing that I really struggle with.
So why do you want to do that?
So I want to travel the world because I want to explore and I want to see what's out there. I want to see I've been to America, I've been to the Canary Islands, France and Spain. They're pretty much the place I've been to. And like everything's different. The world is, every part of the world, every part of this country is different, let alone the world. And to like explore it and have stories to tell, because I'm very when it comes to grandparents, I'm very unlucky. Like I only knew 1 out of 4, and my nan passed away when I was like 6 or 7, maybe 8. So I never got to hear the stories, you know, like the typical like film scenes where you've got granddad telling the stories to grand. I want to be that granddad. I want to be the person who's like, oh yeah, well when we went here, not showing off, but to grandchildren say, actually, do you know what? When we went to America and we did this, and I tried the biggest hot dog in the world, and I did that. It's the little bits, and that's the little bits and that's why I want to travel the world, because even travel the UK, because there's stories in like every part of the UK. You can say, I've been here, I've been there, I've been to the furthest southern point in the UK and the highest point in the UK and all that. And that's what I want, is like little stories, because I'm, like I said a minute ago, I'm happy with what I'm in life, and the small things for me make me really happy. Like just going, like the other week we went away to York for the night. We stayed in a travel lodge, but that for me was amazing. Went to York, went to travel lodge, we had Mackey's for tea. And like them little things, it just made me happy. And I had a smile on my face, and my partner had a smile on my face, and that was the important thing. Whereas other people who I know wouldn't have been happy unless it was a 5-star hotel and it was they're eating at a Michelin-star restaurant. I was happy to have my chicken selects in McFlurry. And that's the thing for me is that's, I suppose that's one of my goals in life, is to make stories that I can tell now and my grandchildren and my children. Yeah.
See, that's beautiful. I love fancy food, but it's the people you spend the time with.
100%.
It's the stories, and the stories generally come from the interactions with other people. For me, that's where the magic lies. That's beautiful.
It's different, because it's like that York trip, the whole thing. Like we stayed in a travel lodge, but we both remember the receptionist, because it was the first person during the whole of lockdown, nearly, bar shop workers who have served us, and it was the first conversation that we both had. We've obviously, my partners had them at work, I've had them in business, but we remember that as a little interaction. And then we remember like McDonald's drive-through, something was wrong, remembering that. And like we went to Five Guys for the first time ever, and it's them little stories that they're not the stories I would tell my grandchildren, but in a year's time, me and Leah will laugh at that. It's like we parked at the travel, if anyone knows York, we parked at the travel lodge, what was here, and we drove to the drive-through that was here. There were car parks next to each other. In a year's time, we'll laugh at that, because it was like, we were really lazy then, weren't we? Like, really lazy, weren't we? And every time we drive past that York or see it, travelers, we're like, remember that time we drove? And that's what I want in life, is them stories to laugh at. And for me, it's the cheesy little ones.
One of the reasons I love camping so much, aside from the fact that I just love being out in nature and I grew up camping, so there's the familiarity to it. But I think it's because you strip all of that stuff away. Yeah. It's not about, there's no such thing as a 5-star tent, and everything becomes very much more about the people that you're with, and the stories that you, both telling stories and making new ones. That's just beautiful, isn't it? That's the simplicity of life.
Yeah, I agree with that, and that's why, because I said there that I've got a fiance. So me and Leah are getting married. What will now be 2022 in May.
That was going to be this year, wasn't it?
Next year, so May coming up. And obviously we've had to postpone it because everything going on. And like when we were planning the wedding and planning what to have, the biggest thing for us is the people who are there and the memories that can be made. So you'll go to people's weddings and they've got bloody ice sculptures and waterfalls and backdrops and all this stuff. And we were like, do we need that? Like, is it going to make us happy? Is it going to make other people happy? And is there going to be a story? It's like we've got we're going to have big letters because people can have their name next to Mr. and Mrs. Smith. But that's because every time we then see a photo, like you might change your profile picture to that. That's great. That means that every time we see your profile picture pop up, it's going to remind us of that day. And like we're going to have, obviously I don't want to give too much away because you're going to be there and be a guest. But we've got like the things that we're going to have on tables, on like the little sweet treats and stuff. They're going to have memories for us. And that's why, simplistic things in life always make me smile and happy, because I'm somebody who can go to Poundland and spend £20 on little random items that will make me happy. I don't need to go and spend £100 in a big fancy shop. I'm all about the little things that just make me, as long as it makes me smile, I'm happy.
Beautiful. So that brings us pretty much to the end of the podcast. That's flown by. So in the time that we have left, Rhys, if you had the entire world as your audience right now, what one message do you want to share with the world?
Don't put things off. Don't put things off is my message. And by that I mean, I see it all the time where it's, I'm going to wait until then to do this, and then I'm going to wait until that's happened to do this. Don't do it, because I don't like the saying, but tomorrow might not happen. And with everything that's gone on in the world at the moment, people have had like a lot of plans cancelled. And to think, if I'd gone, actually, do you know what, I'll wait until next year for that. Because what also often happens is you'll say, do you know what, I'm going to wait until next year to buy that thing. You'll get to that point and you'll be like, actually, do you know what, I'm going to wait until I've got this to get it. Just go and buy it. Just go and do it. Like the world could end. Not obviously the world could end, but
it could.
Something could happen. It could, yeah, exactly. Something could happen that stops what we're doing right now. And the last thing you want to be doing is sat being 80, 90 years old. Oh God, I wish I did that. I wish I went here. Don't get me wrong. Don't go crazy. If you can't afford it, then unfortunately you won't be able to do it. But if it's something that actually is a little bit possible, it's like I often see it where people are like, I'm going to wait until I've bought a house and I've got this, this, and this until I have a child. And my first thing sometimes is like, well, can you afford to have a child now? Does it make sense? And it's like, well, yeah, but I want a house first. I'm like, okay, but what happens if you can't buy a house for 20 years? You're suddenly 40 and you might not be able to have children, unfortunately. That's my life decision thing, is just make a decision and just do it. And often some things don't work out. If it doesn't work out, at least you've tried it, and at least you're not sat there going, God, I wish I did that.
Yeah, it creates an opportunity, doesn't it?
Definitely, just go and do it.
Beautiful. Rhys, thank you so much for coming on. It's been great chatting with me. It's been great chatting with me. Excellent. Not that I love the sound of my own voice or anything. It's been great chatting with you. Thank you for coming on.
You too, mate.
I look forward to speaking more. And I really look forward to finding out exactly what's going to be on the tables at the wedding.
You definitely will, don't worry. You will.
Cool. And that is the end of the podcast.